Hey guys, it's Will here coming at you in our next video in the Army Showcase series. Here is my 100 Kingdoms Army. Looking here, as you can see, and as you'll see in the B-roll, I have a cat right beside me, that this is my 100 Kingdoms Army. Now, basically, what I have planned here, what you can see, and you might see it in some of these models also, is a certain specific color scheme. Now, especially when I first saw these played at Gamescom last year, I knew about the game, kind of, but then when I actually got to play it, I really got into it. This game took what I liked about Sigmar, but missed about fantasy, and smashed it into one. And I just love the lore, love the game. So I still love, and I will still play my City-State Nord combination army. That's my more casual, fun play. I play with my friends. They don't care if I mix with shit, you know, within reason. This is going to be my more competitive, drop-in and play army. So let's get right into it. Before this camera dies, let's go and show you everything in more detail, and we will come back here and talk about kind of what the plan is for the color schemes. We'll see you in that part.
For the Lord fell. Haslia the Redeemer.
Let's start off with how I'm going to do this is I'm going to show you a couple of models from each unit, kind of go over what it is, and kind of what my goals are to use it in this army and how I'm going to paint scheme it. If you guys have any thoughts or maybe suggestions on a paint scheme should be a different way, please let me know down below. Let's just start with the basic. This is going to be infantry that you'll get with any army for 100 Kingdoms. They've also recently just got an update to their model line. Not to say that if you have these ones already, you're missing out. The newer ones just let you build the alternative version of it. They have slightly different clothing options, and they're probably going to be a little easier to build or a little more detailed in the building instructions. Though I do really like the old ones anyways, so either or is fine to me. Without further ado, that is the men-at-arms. This is your starting army models. This is the backbone to any 100 Kingdoms army. That or their alternatives, which is Crusaders, which it's basically just bucket helmets and flails instead of swords. So if you have men-at-arms, you can run them as, Crusaders if you really wanted to. That's that. That's the men-at-arms, very basic. Your sergeant model, and of course your banner bearer, which I've glued a shield onto the back for him. Now, another one you could do if you want to spam a lot, and this is the other version of the backbone you can do if you're not doing full horses. These are your militia. These are your basic cheap infantry. I think they have less armor or something like that is their thing. They're like they're a 1 save instead of a 2 like the whatchamacalls them are. But I could be wrong. They do have shields. Now the militia box, the ones at least that I have the option to either build them as bowmen or as halberds. It was either that or swords, one of the two. But I built them as halberds just because in the first blood box that I bought, that's how you can build them. So we have the actual Warlord Games model right here. And then, of course, I have some Raging Hero militia models that I bought during their Christmas sale right beside them. They work fine. They're a little shorter, though that kind of reflects them being female. If you wanted them to be a little more higher, you could just use cork or basing material to make them taller, like I done with this one right here, this metallic one. So if I remove this one, she is a little more height accurate to what she is compared to the male counterpart. I don't really plan to use much militia in the sense in this army. I just have a unit because that's what came with the starter box. Though there is useful. All the units I find in the game can be useful in a way, and the 100 Kingdoms is very much that space marine aspect in the sense of what it represents, not exactly in its how it hits. In the fact that it is very multi-purpose. It is an army that can be used in any real way that you can think of a way, and everybody can play it differently, but still have synergy. It's a very synergetic army, and everything has a purpose. And if you can find a cool, fun way to do it, you might find a wacky way that militia is god tier compared to somebody who just oops all Ashen Dawn. The core bulk of my infantry, which is ranged units. Going into that, we'll show our first sort of archery boys. Now these are a dual kit, hence you'll see different weapon choices. But these are the Hunter Cadre and Militia Bowman bundle pack. Here they are with their bow version, and then of course their crossbow version and their banner. And the real difference between the Hunter Cadre and the Longbowmen is their hats and of course their weapons. So Longbowmen have the longbow with the quiver. This guy has a quiver with animals on it that he's killed probably to eat later. Whereas on our Hunter Cadre member, we have a crossbow with his bolts in the back here. And he has a hat instead of either being hatless or with a face mask. And of course our banner boy, which has a cage on it, and he's holding a scroll. That's to show that there's a bounty and that he's doing it in orders. The Hunter Cadre is veterans of longbowmen and stuff, for those who have been trained by other hunters to kind of like seek out things. These are your elite bowmen. They are very good at killing things that are hard to kill at a range, whereas normal things, range is mostly used for peppering or finishing off things, unless you play Dwagholm, which that's kind of like your main thing is guns. So that's kind of replaces your like sword and boards dude. But your Hunter Cadres are what you call in to be to cause havoc, be a pain, and if you're really good at positioning with them, can be your killing units. They're definitely one that can be used in a semi-thought out way or last-ditch effort distraction noodle, but are meant to be main players on the board to basically control an area from a range to get your militia or your squires or something into position. Now that talk about elites, this leads us into our heavy boys. This is your elite infantry if you're going infantry spam. These are your holders, your walls. Whereas your militia or your road bumps, your men-at-arms are your area control. Your household guard and Gilded Knights are your like fire to the pan, that is your men-at-arms. The banner is going to be kind of out of focus, but well, that's all we can really do. We have our Gilded Legion boy right here. Has a cape, has a full face helmet, and a different halberd. Whereas we have our, I think this might be Gilded, it's one of the two. Whereas our other version, we have open-faced helm. I think the household guard have that open-faced helm. We have our banner. Now I don't think the household guard get a banner, but I could be wrong. The main heavy armor that a lot of people know 100 Kingdoms for, Steel Legion. Now I kind of had a little bit of fun with this. I kind of did some customization to my boys. As you can see here, we have a guy with a bolt gun. Kind of made them, they're the Space Marines of the army, these boyos, so I kind of turned them into Space Marines. We have one of the sergeants. We have the actual unit sergeant. Yeah, the actual sergeant of the unit. Right here. And then we have, of course, how they're normally built. Right in the front here. And then, as I was saying, one of those fillers. One of the fillers for... They do have the curse of normal spears for games like this, where if you don't move your arm like a foot above. Let's get right into the next piece, which is unit upgrades. In this game, you can buy upgrades for your unit, and they're usually in the form of a character model. So here we have all my sort of character models lined up. They can be taken as add-ons, though I have other models that you can use intertwined. The one that is currently kind of what isn't, is this boy right here. It's kind of hard to see. I know it's not focused, but this is the Order of the Sealed Temple, whatever shield guy that got turned into a character model with the newest update. So I had him originally as an upgrade. Anywho, we have, starting from left to right here on my side, we have our sort of drill master slash noble lord, if you wanted to use them that way, right? Arm master, arm master, whatever, and or lord. We have our drill master. We have another sort of arm master slash drill master, a mercenary leader. And then we have our noble lord, or also can be a sort of, generic drill master, arm master sort of upgrade to a unit. And how these usually work is when you buy an upgrade, they don't replace the sergeant in the unit. They actually get their own separate base, and you put them in the unit as a stand, or if you're playing First Blood, they replace the sergeant of the unit for purposes of unit coherency, and you still keep the sergeant. Some, depending on your army, the upgrade might go on the same stand as your sergeant. I believe in 100 Kingdoms, depending on which one you have, you can get them for free on your unit, depending on how many points you spend. And or they do go on their own separate, they do join onto a base. So there's that. So those are the character upgrades that I have for my units. How I'm going to be painting these ones is I'm going to be painting them based off characters. One of them you can kind of already tell. Taking the helmet from the Noble Lord, from the First Blood box, I am turning this one to be Gummy from, Pinkie Pie's Gator, hence why there's pink to represent her color. The Mercenary, I'm going to be painting up to be one of the side characters, either, I forget what's his name, the scholar that is Starlight Shimmer's friend. Might be painting up that way. She is being painted up as Tempest Storm from the movie, hence because she's a military person. She's a military general leader person. And then we have this guy, which is going to be painted up as, because he's a noble lord, I'm going to paint him up as Shining Armor. Next off, we go into our actual character. I got a few of these. Some of them I have custom kit bashed. Others I have not. Right into the first one here. Starting with the main character of my entire army. This is Princess Celestia. This is the proxy for the Priory commander on horse, or either the Sealed Temple or Crimson Tower. I've still yet to really choose, but here she is. This is the character model from Raging Heroes. I put her on the base of the Chimera. That's meant for if you use it in D&D. Ignore her griffin legs in the back. I wish it was a whole full on horse, but this is Conquest's version of Celestia. That's how I'm going to just show it off. And of course, Celestia herself is the lady on top, but actually she is the horse, and she just uses the top person as a bodyguard and her voice, so humans don't freak out. Yep, so that's kind of the lore I'm going with. She is a horse, a magical being that took the form of a horse because somebody thought pure thoughts or whatever, or thought like horse was salvation. And just like how archangels are made, it took this form, and because it was magical, stories or whatever, had wings and all that stuff, its divine self, and the horn kind of came around once it was still being formed, its rider that found it being the one on top of it when it was being hunted by the Wadroon. Saw it had magical powers, and I thought it was a creature of myth, which is the unicorn. Thus, during its final last formation, when it was finally formalizing into a physical being, grew the horn, and thus Celestia was made. And being a creature that is made of a spark, kind of like the gods and stuff like that, it does have sentiency, though it is a minor sentiency to the sense where it can, think like a person, and stuff. It can kind of use telepathicness or its link to this character to speak. It just doesn't have divine powers to, like, cast rain fireballs, form the earth, do all this stuff, answer prayers. It knows what it is, and it's happy in its army, leading fellow people that kind of flock around it. It kind of has an aura of leadership and comfort. And a lot of priors and stuff kind of follow it, thinking it is a piece of their god that has come back that is not insane. So, yeah, lore dump. Next we have is our noble lord with its retinue, technical retinue. You can buy these guys for like $20 or something American. They come with a stand, and you just put your noble lord on it. I think other character models like the Drill Master can get them depending on the unit, but they are mostly a upgrade for your lord. I believe the 100 Kingdoms is one of the few armies that gets one of these, if not the only army that does, because most part a lot of hero characters are individual bases that join a unit. I think this is one of the few or only ones that actually has a unit for it like this. I know the Sorcerer Kings can buy a like the Mammoth for their Sorcerer, the Dwaycombe, the Dwarfs, can buy a giant steel robot for one of their dudes. But yeah, the retinue I think is unique to 100 Kingdoms, and that, again, I really like that. I'm going to be painting this noble lord up as Mare. They are the person who kind of was the first to find Celestia, sort of like injured self, and they were, abandoned kingdom, kind of like lost title, even though they hold respect from their people, and they run the town, the city that they are camped out of. Thus, Mare, the color scheme. Following that, we have our first sort of like our next, proxy model, which is really hard to see for the camera because it's all red. This is Red Riding Hood from Raging Heroes. This is going to be my water mage, hence the crossbow, because you can give them a wand that basically gives them a mini like fantasy AK. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to be painting her up. She's going to pal around with the hunter cadre or crossbowmen, kind of acting as a fellow hunter of beasts and stuff in the Savage Land that the outpost was around, that just hunts monsters and uses arcane magics to buff their weapon and use magic to heal when they're on the hunt, or drink water and stuff, hence the water aspect. Don't really have a paint scheme for them yet. I think I might just paint them up as Red Riding Hood as a reference. Next we have is that guy that got turned into said character. I'm thinking maybe, if not the Noble Lord as Shining Armor, the Noble Lord might become Prince Blueblood, and this guy becomes Shining Armor just because, he's an armored dude. I gotta read more about the lore, but one of the two will be that way. And then we have a kit-bashed version of the last guy I just showed, where this is going to be, this is my Null Mage. This is what he's going to be, Null Mage or Storm Mage. Again, in that purple to represent that he is part of Twilight Sparkle's unit. Taking a Space Marine shoulder pad, books and stuff, and the pieces from her, which is the old actual, wizard model, the actual wizard model, I have turned her into what he was. Or just generic character that could be, Drill Master, a Noble Lord. Basically just typical female warrior character. I just wanted a female warrior-esque leader character. So here we go. We have Twilight Sparkle themselves. It's kind of like the same idea as Celestia. This is a horse of some knights that, as time kind of went on, its powers kind of fluctuated and passively affected stuff. And based off where these knights have found their horses, they naturally just kind of come to them and they choose their rider at this point. This one was found in as the leader, a relative to the mayor of the city, the one that was in charge of the military for them, as they were in charge of the people, was chilling out in the sort of area, looking at the stars, kind of writing, kind of a philanthropist, if that's the correct word, a smart person that reads and writes in books. And as they weren't fully on board with following this person that came back from they basically thought died, the noble lady of the guy who was whereas Mary is like the Lord leading the city. Their parents, because it's the female model, so her parents was thought to be dead, died during the initial run, get these Wadroon away from their kingdom. And when she came back on the celestial horse, the mom, their brother, I guess we'll say brother, yeah, noble lord, because it's a noble lord, yeah, the brother didn't think that was actually them, thinking it was some sort of trick from the Old Dominion. Didn't want to push it, but they thought, hey, this is right now, everyone's cool, it's bringing people together. I won't push it, but when they're enclosed in talking in private spaces, he definitely lets his voice known. And as he was sitting out there writing and thinking, a horse came up to him and showed interest, and as he tried to get it to go away and stuff, it wouldn't. Kind of noticing something off with it, he pet the horse and realized that, yeah, it had a thing to it, a connection, and in its eyes, almost like an intelligence. And at that moment, he kind of realized, looking at its mane and stuff with the flow of like the stars in it, what its name was, and it was basically, yeah, Twilight Sparkle. A great horse meant for nobility. This steed can basically run as if it's going through the night sky, and it just gave off this like intelligence and speed and grace that perfectly at night is like the ultimate horse. Basically like Gandalf's horse. The shadow staff or whatever, the king of horses, it kind of was like that moment. And thus the noble lord has agreed to, hey, what you're saying is true. That is actually our mom that's come back. A person who represents continuing the lore. This is our Theseist priest for stat purposes, or crusader lord. This is a character that is the newest attachment to the army, as this kingdom's been around for a couple of years or so. This person who has thought they have lost faith because they kind of found out the truth of what actually happened to the humans, gods, and stuff, came looking, basically was near their end of their life. Things were going to happen that wasn't going to make people happy about it. And during a battle, a sortie, as you might want to call it, a outing that some of the militia from this kingdom was doing to help either its friends or as part of payment, honoring an oath or whatever, they ended up finding this person in the middle field around a bunch of, bodies and stuff that they were doing their mission in. And they had the robes and garbs and all that stuff of the church, but they couldn't do anything. Like, they didn't really read books, they didn't really give off that they were part of it. And they ended up finding in one of the cathedrals that they were at that was demolished, which leads into the archangel I have, this aspect of a piece of what turned. Again, this is all what they think. This isn't actually the real lore. This is all speculation from what this kingdom has seen and written. So it's very vague in what actually happened, and I know what actually happens, but this is what they've written down. So the spark element that they think, whatever, this being, this energy that talked to the Celestia horse, came and parted onto this character, the priest. And now that's kind of how its powers. This character is going to represent, this is going to be painted up as Luna, Princess Luna, and it's going to be like kind of like a co-leader, like the church and the state sort of thing. And that's all the hero characters. And now, talking about lore dump and our characters going over that, we now have our Archangel. So if you haven't really seen it yet, I do post stuff on my Twitter, so definitely check that out. I've been posting stuff about this on there, or I will be, and I will be as of this recording tomorrow, which is Sunday, streaming me painting this model. Now, this character, kind of this is a new monster. This is the first monster in the 100 Kingdoms line. I think is one of my favorite that they've done so far. Next to the long neck dinosaur, the Tauntaun or Tauntaun, you know, whatever it's called. This one is really good. Now, this is a custom posing I've done to it. It normally stands up and looks like it's already come out of the ground and is standing there ready to swing at some baddies. The actual lore of these models in the game of Conquest is that they are pieces of rubble, just kind of like the Old Dominion, where they're skull, like catacombs golems guys, those stone golems that they have, kind of gets reanimated by magic. These are kind of the same as the religion, the belief and faith of the churches kind of came back and kind of changed its shape. That belief in magic has started to flood old cathedrals or newer churches and sacred cities and stuff. And as those crumble and in their last little fears of hope kind of cries go out, the magic all consolidates to one singular point, and thus it combines bringing a angel to Earth in a form of a body that it takes out of the church. Now, in this lore of my army, as you can see, the pose of this model is, and I will have a 360 video of it around here at some point. As you can kind of see on this model, I have it so it's just finishing its descent out of the ground. And you can see you have a flag that's been stuck in the ground, some shields, helmets. This place isn't necessarily the actual ground of the church, but 20 feet away from it. This is just outside of the church. It's maybe been hit by an invasion, like some attacks. The last hero character we talked about was hiding, kind of, you know, like pleading for like, what is my worth? That sort of magical flow, that blessing they got, the calling that they were called to, came and infested that place. When they came back out and they're like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do, they made a prayer and the god answered, thus this creature coming out of the ground, and it kind of acts as their basically ultimate technique or their bodyguard. So as you can see, mixing the lores, so that is the Archangel, and going into the core of what a 100 Kingdom army is, what everybody knows them for, the cavalry brutes. So these are the models that I can use basically to fill any sort of slot. If I need them to be household guard, they can be household guard. If I need them to be squires, they can be squires, so on and so forth. There's filler, basically. They're armored enough with shields enough to be an armored, like, household guard or a household knight. Now, I think I'm going to be painting these up as just members of Ponyville. They're going to be painted up as just background characters. Maybe the sergeant being a main character like Lyra and Bonbon for the sergeant and the banner bearer, but I can do whatever I really want with that. So that's the backup horses I got. And talking about horses, we have our next ones, which are our sealed temple. Now, out of all the heavy cavalry, these guys are the smallest physically, like the model wise, they're the smallest. They have some of the thinner horses, but they have some of the coolest armor. So as you can kind of tell with their shields and stuff, how they kind of have that sort of stained glass look to them, or if you look at their official profile. I'm going to be painting these guys up as the Crystal Empire, so they're going to have cool jadey, gemmy effects, paints on their shields and stuff like that. So that's what they're going to be. I have 4 of them, because again, that First Blood set. Next off I have is our household knights. These are just generic knights that anyone can use. Every starter set basically comes with some of these. As you can see, these are the main 6. All of these horses and their riders, male and female riders, all kind of have similar instances in their lore. These are kind of like just like how the last horse, the noble lord you saw, kind of gained their horse. In the lore, these are all kind of the same idea. A mixture of male and female knights and even peasants. They all kind of had similar instances. As the kingdom grew, tales are told of these knights, basically Knights of the Round Table-esque style, that have earned their rights to voice their opinion in how things should run, or how they've done things in the field of battle, or kind of like their own gimmicks. They're kind of like seen by the people as either when they're not fighting, they walk around and they share knowledge or solve problems, or if their home capital is attacked and one of the brother or sister or the queen isn't, like the prince or princess, or these will gear up and they will answer the call in their place. They're the voice of the kingdom, share that sort of almost radiance from them. So each one of these kind of had that same sort of experience. Like this one, you know, kind of like if you've seen the show, it's very cheesy, you know. Next we have is the Ashen Dawn. These guys are the thickest models. They're very heavy for being plastic. These are going to be painted up as either tie between my Lunar Guard or Changelings. And the reason for that is they're supposed to be some of the most aggressive and secretive orders in the entire game. For anyone who's played against them or played them in Conquest knows that they're one of the most powerful units in 100 Kingdoms so far that I'm aware of. And they're some of the sickest lookings too. Their lore is really cool. I really love their look. Yeah, they're just really good. Which then leads us to our last units. Brings us into our next one, our last unit, the one that I have the most of. Order of the Crimson Tower. Now, these are my favorite knights in the game. Just by how they look and their lore. These are supposed to be some of the oldest orders, the ones that are very noble. They won't go to war for you unless you are doing it for a good cause. They won't, you know, raid places, and they'll actually leave or refuse to fight or turn on you if your soldiers that you don't keep in line start doing those things. They're really cool. Their armor looks really sick. They're a nice weight, nice mixture of easy to build and versus detail. They're definitely my favorite. And for money wise too, like real life money, they are definitely some of my favorite. And these ones I'm going to be painting up as the Solar Guard for Celestia, and are reflecting like how the queen has ties to a unknown order people know. The royal family knows that it is these guys. That's where the dad came from. The people just know that there's a lot of churchy stuff going on. There's always seems to be a unit of these guys kind of just chilling in their kingdom at some church or somewhere off in the distance in a farmer's field. These are going to be painted up as that. Let me know down below if you guys think that's kind of cool to mix the two. That's kind of their lore. So with that, guys, this has been my 100 Kingdoms army. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video and enjoyed the lore that I've dumped, the paint schemes I'm going to go in for, and the idea behind this army. Maybe this kind of shows you the same idea that I had with this, and that's finding your joy back in your army, and in the hobby in general. Finding that making these paint schemes and kind of doing something silly like this out of a joke about Oops All Horses from the 5th anniversary box can spark that joy back to you in collecting your army. I've found as I've played and got older that I am generally more of a casual player. I love narrative stuff. I like making up models and stuff. And if it's just reskinning a model, you know, keeping the stats the same but making them look different from what they actually are. And going into this more seriously and having an actual like sort of theme so I can kind of keep the models in place, because I've tried doing this before with my Sisters of Battle in the past. And then I go back like a year later and look at my tray full of models and I don't know what anything is. Doing it kind of this way, having it laid out, doing it slowly, has not only kind of helped me make sure I actually paint things, but it actually keeps things in order. I can see what things are what. Using the companion app that goes for this game, that is a free app, so you get all the rules and updates and rulebooks for free. A saving grace to this. So I can kind of keep what a unit's supposed to be. I can see how many models are supposed to be in that unit, so I can see what their actual layouts are, how many I have them, so I don't mix like units or models with others. So if you guys think this is cool or something awesome, please leave a like and subscribe down below. Comment what you think for each army. How should I paint things? If you want to know a little bit more about the lore of this army, if I should write it out. Talk about writing things out. I have made a premise to a video game for Conquest. Now, I'm not officially releasing one. I'm not officially making one. This was a project I was doing, just creative writing. I missed writing, so I just made a game Bible for a Conquest-based video game. And this was kind of like a custom army I made in it, kind of, you know, like army painter from Dawn of War or Moonbreakers, that sort of thing. If I was to play the video game, my army would be based off this, and so on and so forth. So if you kind of wanted to see how the video game worked, watch my Twitter and you'll kind of see some of the units that I would put in the game. But anyways, with that out of the way, all the rambling done, talk about the units. I'm staring at my camera, which is freaking crooked. We will see you guys in the next one. Remember, I'm trying to stream almost every Saturday or Sunday now. If I don't have D&D on Saturdays, I'll stream then. If I do have D&D on Saturdays, I will be streaming Sundays around noonish my time. But anyways, we will see you there. Bye-bye. Thanks for joining. Bye-bye. Click the video. Click it. Click the video. You know you want to. Click it.
100 vultures feasting on the carcass of an empire. 100 secrets untold. 100 lives of one god or of many. 100 fools.